Wake up, gamers. It's time for a special edition tier list. You thought the usual 3 tier lists was good? Well, how about 4? And this is something I might start doing a bit more often, because I think this is really fun, actually. This is fun. We are going to try to predict how good the new builds are going to be that pop up with the next patch. Because we've got the balance notes really early this time, about a month in advance. So I thought it would be fun to actually give a bit of prediction. I already made kind of a deep dive on this, where I kind of talked about all the builds and showcased what I think some of them are going to look like. So you can go watch that if you prefer to see, you know, non-tier list content. But I mean, why not watch both, right? But I thought it would be fun to kind of visualize it, contextualize some of the stuff that I think is actually going to end up pretty strong in the next patch. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. The first one that we have to talk about, and we have to do it immediately. We've got to do it right now. It's got to happen. It has to happen. Heal Chronomancer. This is a build that is just being flat out instantly enabled by the next patch, and I think it's actually going to be incredibly strong. I'm actually going to kind of do the S+ setup that we normally have here, so we can kind of see where it's going to be compared to some of the other stuff. And Heal Chronomancer, in my opinion, is going to be at minimum S tier. It's going to be really funny if I'm wrong on this, but everything about it looks really good. I think its healing should be very solid. It lacks burst, but yeah, it should be okay on the burst healing, to be honest. The amount of boons access it has, it's every boon in the game, is amazing. It can do quickness or alacrity. It's really good at dealing with condies, actually. Great condi cleanse if you trait into that. It can take all of its utility skills for whatever you might need. Its CC is going to be good. It's going to be unbelievably tanky as well. It's the old build for this, like old Chaos Chrono, Minstrel Chrono, was legendary for being easily the best tank. Now that's kind of coming back into play with Chaos Chrono coming back into the mix. I will be so surprised if this build actually doesn't make its way into the metagame. Seriously, I will be really surprised. I think it's very good. The only thing that could hold it back is that players have been historically very scared of Mesmer because of Continuum Split being quite a complicated skill to use correctly. And that's why Chrono play rate, even though Chrono can be really good, it does actually fall down. Back in the day, seriously, a lot of people know me for my Chrono gameplay. Do you know why? Oh, well, but back in the day, do you know I got into Chrono? I got into Chronomancer because one of my friends, who was our current tank, a Chronomancer player, he quit the game. And nobody else was willing to even try to play Chrono. Seriously. And Chrono was harder to play back then, to be fair. But nobody wanted to play because it was so much responsibility. You had to be the quickness and alacrity provider, and you had to tank at the same time. And I think that kind of that history has always stuck with Chrono. People just don't want to play it, right? They're afraid of it. They're terrified of it. And yeah, before we move on, this build, in my opinion, could be S+. There's a universe where it actually could make it all the way up there to S+, at least in a couple of situations. Stability, Aegis, Resistance, Might, Fury, really good protection uptime by the looks of this. It can do Swiftness, it can do Focus Pull, it can do Portal, it can do Mower, it can do Stability, it can do Reflex, it will be able to revive pretty okay, it can cleanse condies, it can heal a lot, it should have good passive in. Like, it's got all of the tools required that should make it pretty good. Honestly. Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Let's go. And next up, let's stay on the kind of heal topic here as well. This is bothersome to me. Wait, no, this is fine. Is this fine? Yes, it's fine. Heal Herald. Heal Herald. Let's go. So. Heal Herald. Big change. Shield is getting upgraded significantly. Big upgrades on shields. Aegis on the 4th skill on a 15-second cooldown, and the 5th skill, the block that turns you into a crystal, is an AoE heal now. Both of these changes, in my opinion, make these way better, I think. Overall, significant improvements. And does this move it up a tier? That's the question. Because I already rate this build as an S tier build, as a heal build. Does it now have what it takes to be an S+ build? I'm actually not sure. I'm not sure. about that. It's certainly going to be a fair bit better, because Aegis is the only thing that it can't do. It's the only thing it can't do. It has amazing healing, amazing boon application. So, just for context here, Druid and Scourge are S+. I think it actually might be S+, but it will be, I think, the weakest S+ build in terms of support. So I think it will still not be as busted as Druid and Scourge, but just the sheer value you can have on this is going to make it incredibly good. If the radius on the Aegis was a little bit higher, I think it would be better, but it's a very short cooldown. 15 seconds, so 12 with Alacrity. That's a lot of Aegis. Yeah, yeah, 100%. Herald is S+ next patch, guys. Herald, Heal Herald, it's S+. Maybe not quite as busted as the other ones, but this is going to be a pretty spectacular build. I think. Pretty damn spectacular build. It will just be able to do literally everything while still being the ultimate tank god. It's going to heal a bit more when you're on your mace set. It's going to have that Aegis on your mace set. Still does all of the other good stuff. Perma, zillion boons. I like it. S+ tier has been declared. All right. Ooh, this is a really exciting one. So, Power Scrapper. Power Scrapper is getting a huge buff in the upcoming patch. Essentially, its Grandmaster trait, Applied Force, is going to over double the effectiveness of Might on you. You get 40 extra power per stack of Might. That's up from 20. So this build is essentially getting a 500 power increase. That's going to put it way over 40k. It's going to be a 41, 42k DPS build with a good damage profile. I think this should actually nudge it into, it might even be pretty close to S tier, I think, in terms of a DPS build. Like, maybe I would tentatively actually rate it that highly. Maybe still A tier. I put it in B tier right now because its damage is pretty mediocre. It's like 37k, 36, 37k. Which is not very good. Oh, no, I think it's 37, 38 to be fair. It's more, yeah, not 36, 37, it's 37, 38. Which is really not that good for the current state of the game. At the absolute minimum, this build is going up to A tier. I could easily see this being a little bit better, actually, there. As well, with the amount of damage it's going to have, while also being really nifty. It's going to have better stability access too next patch, because you can, for a DPS loss, you can basically gain, you can give 2 stacks of stability to 5 allies when you use your function gyro. Now, that does, of course, alter your rotation if you want to use that reactively, and it will be a DPS loss. However, that is good to be able to do that, in addition to reviving allies. And it will also be an unkillable Juggernaut with insane CC, and solid AoE as well. So, I actually think Scrapper will be very good next patch. Maybe, yeah, maybe I'll say A tier, but like a high A tier, I think, for Scrapper. And ooh, this is annoying actually. We might have to edit this and fix this in post, because I want to talk about Heal Scrapper as well. Heal Scrapper right now is really not good. I will represent it. I will represent Heal Scrapper with mech. We'll fix that in post. And it's currently not good. I'd actually put it as a C tier healer. It's pretty, yeah. However, I do think it will get bumped up at least a tier next patch. At least a tier, because it's getting better protection uptime, better stability access, and as a result of that, its utility slots are actually getting freed up a lot. You're going to have a way easier time fitting in all of the things that you need to function well. And the might uptime is also getting better, with Blast Gyro's cooldown going down a fair bit, and also the Toolbolt skill for Blast Gyro, the super speed, is going down. So you're less reliant on your traits for giving super speed. Your might uptime is better. Your protection uptime is going to be better. Your stability uptime is going to be better. So some really solid performances, improvements actually, for Heal Scrapper that I think make it a fair bit better. I think it would still be on the lower end of B tier. Again, for context, in B tier, I would put Heal Tempest and Heal Spectre. And I think it's actually still probably worse than those. Maybe just by a little bit, or a bit comparable. But yeah, it's definitely getting there. Some really nice improvements there to Heal Scrapper. And I guess we better talk about Quickness Scrapper as well, Power Quickness Scrapper. This build is not getting improved a lot. It's basically the same as the Heal Scrapper, right? Like, it will have the ability to trade a bit of damage for better stability access, which is important, by the way, because right now, your function gyro, if you take mass momentum, you will give 3 allies 1 stack of stability for 5 seconds with no boon duration, so a bit more than that. But next patch, it's going to be 2 stacks for 5 targets, which obviously makes it not really playable in a group scenario to amazing in a group scenario. And that is going to, in my opinion, make the build have a much easier time kind of competing with Herald, right? Because Herald has Chalice for load stability. I mean, honestly, that one's kind of busted. That's almost like 10 target stability. It's pretty disgusting. But hey, listen, the Scrapper is going to have an easier time. It will be a DPS loss to do that, same as taking Chalice, though, right? So that's not the end of the world. So that's a possibility. It's also worth noting, actually, with Scrapper, this is kind of interesting, but Scrapper's uptime on stability is actually going to be very high, because you could take the Bulwark Gyro, Toolbelt skill stability, the little shield that gives 3 stacks, and your Function Gyro with 100% boon duration is going to be 10 seconds, 2 stacks on 5 targets. So Scrapper is going to have very high stability uptime, actually, as a healer, which could potentially be interesting, actually. You know, that could be interesting in some situations. But yeah, there you go. Quickness Scrapper is getting a little bit better. Heal Scrapper is getting a fair bit better. DPS Scrapper is going to be really exciting. We love to see that. Okay, so next up, oh, I have really bad news. I have extremely bad news. The worst news ever. The Mesmer players came and they drained my Copium tanks. I was actually kind of hyped up for Alacrity Marage. Staff, Alacrity Marage. I thought, wow, the Chaos trait line is getting so much better. Alacrity Marage is going to have Omega boons. You know, it's going to have the Might, it's going to have Fury, it's going to have Protection, it's going to do all this crazy stuff. Oh, wow. Alacrity Marage is back on the menu. Bad news, though. It's actually... It's going to be tricky. It might gain a bit of damage depending on how good the staff changes are. Staff 3, the illusionary phantom thingies, warlocks, they're going to apply torment instead of vulnerability, so staff gets more damage. But you lose damage in the chaos trait line because your extra damage mod is now when you have chaos aura, not when you have regeneration. So it's a bit of give and take. Okay, it's a bit of a give and take situation. The boon access is going up a lot, though. However, this build does have some significant disadvantages. It has very slow ramp-up time compared to other even Condi builds in terms of its damage output. And, of course, without Confusion, you're pretty sad, right? Because Confusion got nerfed. I will say it's going to be a lot better. And... right now, Alacrity Marage is kind of, I wouldn't say a dead build, but it's certainly not a particularly good build. But I do think it's going to be significantly improved and will be, if only because of the boons it's going to grant now. It will even have like baked-in stability access when you hit Distortion. It will give AoE stab instead of even have to taking a utility skill. Just because of that, I think it makes it infinitely more playable. I think right now, it definitely doesn't feel good to play this build in group PvE whatsoever, to be honest. However, I think that after the patch, I think it's going to feel way better. You're going to feel like you're delivering way more value to your team, and maybe you'll smile a little bit when you're playing your Alacrity Marage overall. So I wouldn't say it's going to be amazing, but I will say it's going to be significantly improved. So that's why I've placed it here in B tier. Certainly a build that still needs some work, but I think it will be substantially improved, which is kind of nice. Yeah, DPS Mirage, that's a good point, actually. Weirdly enough, it's not something I've actually looked into. Numerically, I feel like it should actually work out a lot better because they're making it burstier. So they're making the ramp-up time significantly improved, which is nice. And they're also making the playability on DPS Mirage a lot better. I will actually confess, I don't know exactly where it's going to fall. However, the playability of Axe Mirage is way higher. So we need to explain what the problem was with Alacrity Mirage before we can explain why the playability is improved. So Axe is a really interesting weapon. the auto attack chain is massively skewed towards the third attack. And I mean insanely. I think it's the most extreme example of this. So here's the context. Your first auto attack is like 2 seconds of bleed. Then it's 2 seconds of torment. Might be the other way around. And then finally, it's 6 seconds of both on the third one. So that is insane how much stronger that is. And that, of course, applies to your clones as well. And here's the kicker. Like, why is that a problem, Teapot? Well, here's the thing. Your clones, the little axes, they do their auto attack chain. But hang on, when you do an ambush attack to do a bunch of damage, oh no, it interrupts their auto attack chain. Yeah, so unless you're really good at this, your clones get absolutely, like, nuked, basically, because they won't be able to correctly do their auto attack chains, right? That you'll basically kind of, like, grief yourself a little bit by doing that. So this should hopefully prevent that from happening as much, I think, with the DPS Mirage build. And they actually buffed it a little bit overall. Like, the damage on it is overall higher, right? You get more colonies. So what they did was they basically made it so that the auto attacks on the little clones, they don't have an auto attack chain anymore. They just do the same one over and over and over again. And the overall damage from doing 3 auto attacks compared to a full chain previously is a lot higher. So the build should do a fair bit more damage. It should be a fair bit more consistent, and it should do a fair bit more DPS compared to how it is right now. But yeah, there you go. That's what we like to see. That is indeed what we like to see. Yeah. So, a little bit of a tricky meme there. A little bit of a weird one there with DPS Mirage. It might do a lot of damage next patch because of some of these issues being resolved, right? These weird interactions and kind of like weird bugs being resolved with Mirage. A little bit hard to say because, again, all the Mirage players, they're gone, okay? They've vanished into the ether. They've gone into the night, into the dark, right? Another build that I do want to talk about a little bit is, oh, Berserker. Oh, let's go. So, warrior mains. Warrior mains, you cried hard. Warrior mains were trying to outcompete Necros and Thieves for the biggest, and Ellies, for the biggest complainers in the game. And you know what, guys? I hate to say this. I really do. But your complaining and whining has been rewarded, unfortunately. Berserker is S+ tier next patch, if it stays the way it is right now. This build is going to be insane. Just looking at the numbers. Power DPS Berserker is pretty much going to be the top DPS build, I think, in terms of how much damage it can do. While also being tanky, you can also take Bull's Charge now instead of Wild Blow, which is really nice to have on your toolbar. As usual, massive damage, big burst. But actually, the real story here, I feel like the real story here is actually towards the Quickness build. The Quickness build is literally going to be 40k DPS or something like that. I think that's what people have estimated it. And it's going to give Quickness with no boon duration and also Fury to everyone there. Like, will it actually see as much play as Herald? Actually, no, I think, because it's not as hard of a carry as Herald, to be perfectly honest with you. So it's less value, less support oriented. But the build is going to do so much DPS on launch, unless it gets nerfed before we get there, that, yeah, this is going to be a juicy one. And the more important thing here is actually the playability. So let's actually explain what happened with Berserker. So 2 important things happened. So the first is that Smash Brawler, which is an adapt trait, it now says whenever you use a Primal Burst, it extends Berserk, as opposed to giving you just 5 extra flat seconds in Berserk. Makes the duration longer. Now, you can just go, and just like keep spamming and keep blasting again and again and again, and just going crazy. And that's going to basically make it way easier and way more fun to maintain Berserk for the power Berserker builds in particular. So that's just a win-win right there. The build is going to be way more fun to play, and it's also going to be stronger at the same time. And then the second change was to Heat the Soul. So Heat the Soul is the quickness trait for Berserker, and it's the only difference between the full DPS power build, by the way. You literally change one trait, don't have to change gear, between full DPS and quickness DPS. One change. And this is where the fun begins. No internal cooldown on that right now. So they had a 5-second internal cooldown when you used a primal burst, you gave quickness. Not anymore. Now it is just full blast, full unhinged insanity the entire time. So you give really good quickness uptime. Build's going to be fun to play. It's going to be a very good Berserker roleplay, right? You just like keep mashing your primal burst over and over again, just going crazy. I think Warrior mains are going to get the build that they have wanted for a long time, actually, with this particular build. Should be really strong. Again, it will be semi-game breaking, especially in like speedruns and stuff when it actually makes it here, if it does in its current state from the patch notes, but we shall see. I think even in just like random groups, I think you can still contribute just a huge amount of damage, right? Like you could very easily, you're going to do comparable DPS to a DPS build while giving quickness. Doesn't mean that your healer's going to have to pick up some of the slack in terms of the boon output for your group, but hey, maybe your healer likes applying boons. Maybe your healer is a boon, and you are not a boon. But yeah, there you go. The boy we want is a banner warrior. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, look, that's what you know. That's the really old school build, you know, going back in time. Double banner warrior. It's a fun build, though. You know, old Quickness Berserker it's definitely one of those community favorites, I feel like. Definitely a community favorite is Quickness Berserker. But yeah, I like this. We have someone saying, I want banners back. Then we also have banners dies of cringe. I like that. That's good. But yeah, that's Berserker. And I think the final build that I think... I mean, this is probably the least relevant change overall, I'd say. But it's one that I think I do like, so I want to highlight it. It's to Dragonhunter. DPS Dragonhunter, Power Dragonhunter. The trap trait is going to give you Aegis whenever you drop a trait. And I think this is actually a change mostly aimed at PvP. But I think it has some really nice side effects in PvE as well. It's going to be way easier to maintain your unscathed contender in the Virtues trait line. We're also getting a reduction in cooldown to Shield of Courage, the Dragonhunter F3. The only thing I don't like about this build is the animation locking, but I really like it in concept. It's a very defensive build, has a lot of value. You can block attacks for your allies, you can heal your allies. You're very durable now because it's getting an extra 180 free vitality on Defender's Dogma, which is the minor trait. Second minor trait, master minor trait in Dragonhunter. Has good cleave, good burst damage profile's good. Pretty robust. You can take good utility skills, right? You drop your sword and you can take advance, or you can take stand your ground very easily. Just a good build overall. It's, again, one of those kind of classics from the dawn of time that has just kind of been hovering there in the background, but I actually think that the Aegis change, the extra vitality change, is really good. If the animation locking problem is kind of like averted in some way, I think everyone wants the Scepter. You guys remember you ran like Scepter Torch on this build? It's actually insane. That's so wild that there was a time where you would actually do that, like Power Dragonhunter. That's so wild. It's very unhinged, to be honest. But yeah, this is a build that I think it can become really, really good and very much back in the spotlight with just a couple of extra little changes, in my opinion. So yeah, there you have it. And I believe those are all the builds that I think are actually nudging themselves a little bit in the current moment. I don't think anything else super major is changing. We could talk about how I think Catalyst playability is going up, but it's the same build, right? Like, you know, it's the same build. It's just that they've changed it so it's a bit easier to play, pretty much, which does make it better, obviously, but not in a super significant way, to be honest. Yeah, Bladesworn. Maybe it's an honorable mention is Bladesworn, actually. There's some potential that there's a new relic that might help Bladesworn out, because it's kind of lacking a relic it can get a lot of value out of right now. Because I believe it's Relic of Paether, right, is now changing. So when you Shadow Step, you get a flat damage mod for 4 seconds instead of just one attack. And that actually might help Bladesworn a little bit. Potentially. But, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, nice thing with... another thing that happened is Firebrand, actually. Firebrand is also going to be... you get Might when you use Ashes of the Just now, okay, which is kind of nice. Paether won't help. Lamau won't be for every slash, though. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Ugh. It would also be really weird with the rotation, right? Like, you'd have to tell it... You'd have to use your... what is it called? Like, the Flicker Step, right? You'd have to Flicker Step every time. It's like... you can't do it every time, right? I don't know. I don't know. It's maybe not then. That was, I had some copium for that, but I guess not. Like Firebrand's getting better, like all variations of Firebrand, because you get Might on Ash of the Just. That's mostly going to be for PvP though, to be honest. It's actually a really nice change for PvP. But yeah, that just about rounds it off, I believe, some of the predicted changes, or kind of where I think some of these new builds are going to actually end up for the next patch. So I hope you enjoyed that. Okay, let's see if I'm right. This is going to be fun, because you know what we get to do now? We get to wait until the patch drops, and then we can see if I'm right. Although, listen, if ArenaNet nerfs Berserker and it's not F's+, that's not my fault, all right? I am not taking responsibility for that, and it doesn't count if it gets nerfed before it makes it into the game. So I'm just getting my, you know, I'm covering my bases here before we get there. But anyway, that is going to be about it, and that is indeed the final tier list. You know, you guys on YouTube don't know this, but, you know, I had a bit of a rough week. I was teasing the Twitch audience with tier lists for the entire week. Seriously. Yeah. Okay, so count yourselves lucky that you on YouTube, you don't have to go through that experience. So, there it is. We got there in the end. The tier lists have been delivered. As always, let me know what you think. Hope you enjoyed the content, enjoyed a little bit of speculation about the game, guys, and what's to come. So leave your comments, like the video, subscribe, watch all the other tier lists, watch all my other videos too. More content to come. Buy the game using my referral link, and you know what? You should go on my Patreon as well and give me money there. You know, just do it everywhere. Or join on YouTube. I've given you so many options. So many options for throwing money at me. Just pick one, all right? Come on. But anyway, that's going to do it. Thanks for watching, gamers, and I'll see you next time.